So, last week we had a look at the affirmative side of this topic. So, therefore, this week we're having a look at the negative side of this topic. Welcome to the easier side of the topic, which is good. Not that you can't win this debate from the affirmative side. If you were really thinking about it and you developed your case really well, it's very easy to win from the negative. Same for the affirmative, but a bit tougher. Mainly because of this word. This is what makes it so hard for the affirmative team to win. This is what makes it so easy or easier for the negative team to win. Because this word, banned, is so strict. It leaves no room for the affirmative team. But we talked about that last week, how you could use that to your advantage. As the affirmative team, you've got to say why a complete ban is the only way. So, although it really restricts you, what it should do in the prep room is really make you focus and really make you go, okay, this we're actually just streamlined and pigeonholed into this. We don't have any work either side. We've got to say why this is the only answer. So the first thing you should do as a negative team is to be talking about this word as well. Regardless of whether the affirmative team talk about it first or not, you need to talk about it as a negative team. And you need to start saying, with this word, one of the first things that your first speaker to the negative team, apart from their rebuttal, like when they start their case, is how this is too extreme. As a negative team, you love this word to come up in a debate. You absolutely want this word to come up in a debate. And you want this to come up in a debate because you know that it forces the affirmative team to do something they don't want to do. And you know that it plays into your hands. Because you start talking about this, how banning is not the answer, how banning is too extreme. Anytime you have the word banned and you're on the negative side, you need to think of an alternative. If it's not going to be banned, what's going to happen? Because what you don't want to start doing is saying that this is okay. You don't want to start saying this is not a problem. You don't want to say that this doesn't exist, because then that plays into the affirmative team's hands. You can't do that. You've got to address this. You can't just make it go away. You can't say, nobody will do it. We shouldn't be talking about it at all.
Hi, sorry.
You're okay. You can't start doing that. You must address the topic. So, but with this word, you get to play with it. And anytime I want to encourage you, if you see this word banned and you're on the negative side, you want to change it from that to educate. Anything that the affirmative team want to ban, you can change with education. We don't need to ban people from their computers and devices because they're cyberbullying. We need to educate them on how bad cyberbullying is. You need to not only, as the negative team, you won't only get to address this problem, you'll get to come up with a solution both for the victim and the person who's doing it. Because, just a sec, because as a negative team, you're going to come up with answers that'll make them better and it'll make them better. Because you get to say, anyone who's cyberbullying, if we ban them, like the affirmative team are suggesting for this, that could be 2 weeks, that could be 6 months, that could be an entire life. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the length of time when you're on the negative side. Because you're going to say, this will not solve this. It won't work. Because at the end of the year, you're still going to have the person that might go back to cyberbullying. That might still think that they haven't learnt from their lesson. What's going to change for them? And why are they doing it? That's the thing. So as a negative team, you can say you're going to help both. And it's a win-win situation. And adjudicators are going to like that. Because you know what a really poorly prepared affirmative team are going to focus on? This. And just that. And it's going to be all about that. It's going to be all about how someone's hurt. It's going to be all about how someone's going to commit suicide. It's going to be all about, but you're not going to fix this. as a negative team, you get to fix this. So as an affirmative team, and we didn't talk about it last week, but you still got to fix this. And will that fix it? Just taking away their computers and devices for a year, will that fix it? Because what have you changed? So remember, if you take away nothing from today's lesson, take away this. When you see this word, think this word. Straight away. This is too extreme. We need to do this. Now, as a negative team, you get to work out how. How can we educate people about it? How can we educate the person that is cyberbullying? What do we do? What do we do? Think about it. In high schools, okay, and you might not be talking about high schools. You might be. You probably are. But I would encourage you to, because it's a primary school debate, you talk about primary school people. But what do they do in high schools? When they want to have classes around, kids that are 16, 17 and learning to drive, they sometimes bring in people that have been victims of car crashes. This is what it's like to be in a car crash. This is how I lost my leg. This is how I lost, part of my sight. This is, they bring in people that have had, I drove like I was doing 110 in a 60 zone. And I lost control of the car and I crashed it. It'll work on some people. Some people go, oh, it's not me. I watch too many Fast and Furious movies. Like I'm going to crash a car. There'll be some that don't get it. And there'll be some that sit there and go, wow, I didn't think about it like that. So you could bring in people that have been cyberbullied. What's it like? What does it feel like? How did they feel? What happened to them? How did they work it out? Maybe there might be people that are brave enough that have done this that said, this is how I got into it and why. Education. Main thing you get to talk about. Also, you get to pick whether this is going to be ridiculous or not. As a negative side, you get to go, it's too long. Negative side, you get to go, it's too short. You get to pick. But for whatever way you pick, you've got to have a reason for why you have picked that. You have to. And you have to challenge the affirmative team on why it is that if they don't mention it. What did we talk about last week when we decided, if at an affirmative team, why we were going to pick a year? John's not here today, but he came up with some good ideas, I remember. Remember what he talked about? Yeah.
So they can learn their lesson?
Yeah, because it's not a week. It's not a slap on the wrist. Like 1 year, you're going to feel it. Your teachers are going to have to come up with something different. If you're going to remember, we decided all computers and devices meant the whole classroom. Here you go as a negative team. You know what? You get to talk about that. Why? Why all? Why all? Why not just home? Why can't they still use Promethean boards and have iPads and stuff in the classroom? It's education. It's under controlled environment. Remember, teachers are smart. Okay, they're really smart. Really smart. So they're not going, they'll know that a student has been cyberbullied because they're under this 1 year ban, but they're still able to give them an iPad. Why? Because teachers know what it's used for. Teachers will be able to limit their access on it. They'll be able to monitor what they do. They're going to be closely observed. They're still going to be able to do their classwork. Remember, we're not failing these people.
Just like the other day when we got a call from this channel that said, and she said that someone was trying to use open an app on the iPad.
Yep. So stuff can be monitored and changed. So remember, as a negative team, you get to say, this is just way too harsh. That's one of the first things you've got to talk about. And how it's not an answer. This is not an answer. Just going, okay, you don't get your computers and devices for a year, and that will fix you. You get to ask the affirmative team, how? What changes?
How would it fix them?
Because affirmative team's got to have a model. Remember? They've got to answer who, what, when, where, why. And as soon as they don't talk about one, you want to talk about that one. If they don't say who this changes, you want to talk about that. You listen for it, you write it down. You want to talk about the things they don't want to talk about, always. But as a negative team, what's the first thing that you want to argue and think about when you get the negative side? It's 2 words that I've drummed into you since the very beginning. Please, somebody tell me yes. Nope, not in this topic, any topic. You're in the negative team, yeah. Excellent, good girl. Okay? What happens? So, think about, at the moment, people that are caught cyberbullying, do they get banned from 1 year from all their devices? What happens? What happens? If you don't know, you have to find out. You have to know. So you've got to come with some information behind you and go, this is what happens to people that are caught cyberbullying. This is what the penalties that they have. It's a serious crime. There are consequences to it. Okay, so you've got to know what happens to people, and does that work? Is it good? Is it effective? Does it stop it? Yes? No? We don't know? Find out. Okay, questions? What would you talk about if you were the negative team? What would you want to do? What's the answer? Why is this not the answer, and then what is an answer? You can, and this is so complicated, you can, as a negative team, have a counter model. So you can have what's called a counter model. Therefore, as a negative team, you say, as an answer to this problem, we present this model. Now, generally a negative team doesn't have a model, because that's an affirmative team's job. If the affirmative team don't have a model, you can have a model as a negative team. But because you're arguing the status quo, you usually don't have a model because you're not going to change anything. You're keeping it the same. But if the problem is so messed up that you actually need a counter model, then you say, this is how we're going to fix it. This is who we're going to present this idea to, when, where, why. We're going to fix the whole thing. And you literally say that. As the negative team, we present this counter model. You'll freak your adjudicator out, but that'll be okay. They'll get used to it because they won't often hear it. But you can do it, and definitely do it if they don't have one. But generally, you're just going to argue what currently exists and why it works. Okay? What could be, because you're looking really probably somewhere like 5 good points for this that you want to talk about, and I want you need to lead with education. How's this education going to happen? Who's going to do it? Whose responsibility? Government? Teachers? Police? Who does this?
Your parents.
Oh wow, we're going to leave it to the parents. Okay. As an affirmative team, where can we see this problem? Does your mum know as much of cyberbullying as your mum does?
Yeah.
Can we guarantee this?
No.
No, exactly. So how are we going to, so even this, if we're going to go down the line of parents, we're going to have to educate parents first. So, could be an idea, bring the parents in school halls, things like that, education through advertising, whatever. We can start educating parents on the dangers of cyberbullying. They'll have a little idea because nobody wants all their information out there. We don't sit there and just type out all our passwords and send it off on our Facebook profile, I hope. So people get the idea that they can be hacked. But we need to outline the seriousness of this, that's for sure. So the main thing, as a negative team, don't say this doesn't exist or this doesn't happen or it doesn't happen to everybody so it doesn't happen. You can't dismiss it. You can't go, it's not a problem, because we wouldn't be having a debate about it. All right? What could be 5 really good ideas that you want to talk about if you're going to tackle this from the negative side? Yeah.
You can change ban from taken away. So like, for example, if you're getting better and like people have taught you, they've educated you,
yep.
You can maybe like have it twice a week or something.
There you go. So we're going to start talking about how this is just so strict and no room for movement. We're going to give people room for movement. If they show that they're getting, more competent and that they're following the rules and everything, we're going to give them a chance. Because we're not about punishing, we're about
educating.
Yes. Punishing doesn't work. Makes the person sit there and feel sad and want revenge. Education works though, because maybe they don't know what they're doing is that serious. Maybe they don't know, what they're doing is against the law. Maybe they just think, well, I've been hurt. You know what? Bullies bully. Hurt people hurt people. They're doing this for a reason. They're not doing it because they woke up one day and went, you know what? I think I want to make some person's life a living hell. I might just go and hack their profile and call them nasty things and upload photos of them that, I've altered to make them look horrible. I'll do that this morning. That will make me, feel good. They don't. They do it for a reason. And we need to find out that reason. And this won't give us that reason. That takes them away for a little bit. It might make it worse in the end. That's something you could say as a negative team. This won't improve the situation. It's just going to make it worse. It just delays them and it makes them come back angrier.
But even if you educate the person, they probably won't care and they might just keep doing it.
True. But have we tried?
Yeah.
Remember, we can't destroy the world, and also in a debate, you can't fix the world. Okay, you're still going to have people that it's not going to work for. But you need to point out that this won't work. That's, as a negative team, this doesn't work. And here's why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it might make people angrier. It doesn't work because they'll still need computers in classes. It doesn't work because how they're going to do NAPLAN. It doesn't work because they're not going to be able to get their assignments. And you're going to get cyberbullying stupid people because they haven't been able to get the access to all the stuff that they need. So it doesn't work. Remember, you don't have to solve the world. You just have to prove that this won't work. And then you win as a negative team. Okay? The affirmative team need to prove this is the answer. You need to prove this is not the answer. Not cyberbullying doesn't exist. Or cyberbullying is not relevant. Or so, you don't need to prove that. Any other questions? I know it's a bit shorter today. But that's pretty much what you need to do from this side. Okay? But most important thing, band equals education instead. For sure.
Can't they just instead of ban them, maybe take their devices and keep them at home? No, take their devices at home and keep them at school. So then when they come to school, they can use.
But they're not school's property.
Well, you can only access certain things at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And under the school network, you can only
Also, like the problems that we had working out the affirmative side, how does this work at home? Parents have different rules. Parents go out. What stops them getting access? So things like that. You also just get to poke holes in it as well. This doesn't work because all parents don't have the same level of understanding. This doesn't work because it can't be controlled at home. Who's at home watching them? How do we know? Why would it work? Show us how it works. Just keep asking the questions. Keep on hitting the affirmative team with, really? How? Why? Prove that it'll work. Doesn't work. This will work. And that's why you can't just go, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You've got to have an alternative. But this will. We can't monitor devices at home, but we can control them at school. Because a affirmative team can't go back and go, you can't control devices at school. Yes, we can. We have secure Wi-Fi. We have trained teachers. You need to have something that works, not just, no, we don't like your ideas. You see that?
Yeah.
It's easier from the negative, but it's not impossible from the affirmative. But it's certainly not impossible from the affirmative if you have a negative team that doesn't know what they're supposed to do. Then you get away with it, but you can't rely on that. Okay?
Yeah.
Good?